Hello, welcome to Scrap Time. My name's Christine, and in this video we're going to be playing with some Dina Wakley Media acrylic paints. Now these paints aren't new, but I just got a bunch of colors, so I thought I'd play around with them. So I'm using the Dina Wakley Media art journal here, and today I thought I'm going to try and work on a canvas sheet because I work on the cotton sheets a lot, the papers. But a lot of people don't know what to do with the canvas. So what I have done is I took some Distress Collage medium and I painted over the sheet. I can tell, you may or may not be able to tell, there's some areas that doesn't have as much of the medium as some other areas, and that's fine. It'll just take the paint a different way. Now the one thing, if you are going to do that, you want to make sure, because the material, the paint will go through the material and onto your next page. Make sure you don't glue your page to this page. So once I painted it on, I dried this page with a heat tool, and then I dried my cotton page. So you want to beware of you're not gluing your pages together. So let's see what happens. So these paints have a nice little nozzle there. I'm just going to put some paint directly on my material, and I'm using my trusty finger to paint with. I'm going to add in, so that one was turquoise and this one is magenta, two of my favorite colors together. So when you're doing painting with your fingers, unless you want to blend the colors, just be mindful of what paint you have on what finger. Now I like to use my fingers because I find you have control. I can like bring this together and blend it, and maybe it just brings me back to being a kid with finger painting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can lift some of it, the paint. And so I have this stencil by Dina. I'm going to put it down, and currently I don't have any water on my paper towel. I'm going to see if I can do it without water. I might need to get water. So let's see what happens. So it's so light you probably won't see it. So it didn't really work the same as when you have the gesso, or it could be I need to, let's see, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a bit more paint on, and I'm going to see what happens if my thing is wet, my cloth is wet. I think a lot of times people do this with baby wipes, but I don't have any, I don't think. So I'm going to make sure I have a nice layer of the turquoise, a nice layer of the pink, blend the two into each other. So I'm going to fold this over, I'm going to wet it. Put my stencil back down, and now with the wet, let's see what happens. So it did it a little. It's probably still hard to see. So I don't know if I'm going to just try and transfer some of this paint onto my other page. Ooh, what I also like to do sometimes is if I'm cleaning my stencils, if they had paint, you wipe the stencil on a page, and then some of that comes off. Okay, so let's just go back to having fun over here with our finger painting, because I can see it as it's drying. It does, you can sort of see it. So it does sort of do something depending on the light you see. So it sort of works. It just doesn't work that same intensity as when you do it with the gesso on paper. I'm going to put some other blue. This is blushing. So you shouldn't be afraid of using these canvas pages. There's a lot you can do with inks and papers. You can like spray ink on them. That would probably work well. Anything that's a little wet. It's the dry medium that may not work as well. I was asked the other day in a comment about why do people make art journals and what do you do with them afterwards? And an art journal really for me isn't so much about journaling. It's just about a place to experiment and play and be creative without making piles of paintings and canvases and stuff. And then afterwards you have a book of art you created. If you don't like it, you go over it with gesso and do something else. And if you do like it, it's just something that for me gives me a creative outlet to play and experiment and have fun and play with color, because I really like color and getting my hands messy. Now you may not want to finger paint. It might be a little much for you, but that's what I think is fun. It's just getting your fingers messy. I'm going to go over that part where it had we had done that experiment. It's about experimenting and have fun. A lot of the times too I get questions like, does this work or that work or this work? Well, just try it. I don't know. I've only know what I've experimented with. And so if something comes to you and you're like, I wonder if this will work, get a piece of paper and just test it out and see. You might come up with a whole new technique that everyone will end up doing. So I'm going to dry this layer and then we're going to put a little bit more paint on just because we're having fun finger painting. So I dried my base layer, and so now I brought my stencil back out. And just so you know, this stencil is called Wallpaper. So I'm going to now put some paint here and just use my finger again, because you know I didn't bother bringing any brushes out. I'm doing it all with my fingers. So that one was lime. Now I have tangerine. And I love putting opposite colors on top of one another. Orange and blue. Seeing what happens. Need to bring it a little more over here so they sort of blend together. And I'm going to put on some ocean. The other thing is when you are experimenting in your art journal, don't be afraid. If the blue gets in the orange, it got in the orange. Cover it up with something else. You have to sort of just be free to play in your art journal. You can't have any strong, like it has to look like this or it's not going to be good or whatever. It is what it is. Now I'm going to Bring that back over there. So, you know, the green was okay in that. The blue was quite heavy. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm going to dry that. Maybe we'll do one more layer. So I'm just going to put a bit more color on. I'm going to go back to blushing. I find this blue is a little dark, and so you can go back over it. But what I think I'm going to do is spritz it with water. If I spritz it with water, it will thin it down, and so some of that blue will still show through, but it's just not as dark as it previously was. I'll do the same thing with this color. So that now sort of becomes a texture in the background rather than the main design. So this just shows you that if you do something and you're not 100% on it, it doesn't mean it's going to be there. There's ways around it. I can put a little bit more turquoise over this one. Cover it up. Spritz with water. And then rub a bit off. The other thing too, while it's still wet, I'm going to just put it like that to see if some of that paint will transfer over. I'm not sure if it did or not, but now this page here is a little more muted, so you don't have to worry about that pattern really popping out. You can just put another thin layer of paint with a little bit of water, and the design you made suddenly goes more into the background, and you can continue working on top. So that just hopefully will give you a few ways. You can use some paint, these great colors by Dina, using it on the canvas, with stencils, with your fingers. And as I was mentioning, just get out your materials and experiment. You don't need a lot of tools. It was paint, fingers, and a stencil. So give it a try.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to Scrap Time Videos on YouTube. In the meantime, here are a couple other videos you might be interested in watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.